So this NeurIPS was huge. I'll try to find the chart of NeurIPS registrations. Is it this one? No. So there was a nice chart. That's what I'm trying to find. Actually, there were 29,000 people registered for NeurIPS. So we had like, I don't know, half an hour discussion on where does this money go, because it's like, I don't know, $800 or something registration. And you can't spend that much. That was crazy. This time it was in San Diego, United States, a very big area. It's called San Diego Convention Center. And the entire convention center was basically used by this, okay, like this whole building. You see, from here, it's the entire convention center. Very big halls for the main keynote. So there were like 3, 4, maybe 5 keynotes. And there were oral presentations in several rooms. And then there were large halls for poster presentations. And there were 6 poster sessions. In each poster session, you had, I don't know, a few hundred posters, I think. And it was very hard to go through all of them. I skipped the second day, so I went to 4 poster sessions, and I don't think I covered half of them. Yeah, so everyone was complaining, like, how is that possible? How can we scan all these things? And Harai gave a nice recipe. Harai says that before each session, you go through the titles of the posters in that session. There was a website, ml.ing. I don't know who has created it, but it's very simple nowadays, right? You can use Cursor to create something like this in 5 minutes. So it has the papers of NeurIPS, and you can search with keywords. It just doesn't open. Like, I don't know if you are interested in molecules. It brings all the posters and everything that has this molecule keyword somewhere in the paper. And then it is grouped by schedule. So if you are, I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday this time, you can check. And this is the poster number, which was also put on the poster itself in the room. So you could check that, okay, I'm interested in this. You write down, like, I want 1504. And then in the room, you travel to that number. So that was pretty efficient. If you spend time before the poster session and list the numbers that you definitely need to visit, then it works. But yeah, it was hard. So I went through those poster sessions, took pictures, and grouped some of them here. For today, I have, I don't know, maybe a few dozen, and it's not full, so probably we'll need another session to cover everything. I grouped them into general ML, this VLN stuff that we are doing at my own posters. So with Narek, Boris, and Jakub, we had a poster in one of those workshops. So these are the papers that are related to that. And then I had a few things for molecules and materials. So let's start from here with general machine learning stuff. So on the first day, it was a very popular poster, the one where you can see Harari's name. So Harari was one of the authors of this, and it was extremely popular because they call it a mixture of recursions. What does it mean? So imagine you have a transformer and it has layers, and then for some layers you want to do process multiple times. So for example, you do like during forward pass, you go like, I don't know, 2 layers, And then the third layer is done like 3 times, and only then you go to fourth layer, because everything has the same size, right? In Transformer, everything, all the layers have the same dimensionality, so you can just run the inference, run each layer as many times as you wish. But if the model is trained like that, it allows to kind of reuse the weights, because it kind of becomes that you have a deeper network, right? But some of the layers are using the same weights. That's the idea.
Is it done for space optimization?
Yeah, it is done for, with fewer weights, you can kind of do more computation. It's like another way of changing the compute, right? Because we know there is this test time scaling, right? When you just do more tokens during test, and because of that, you make more computation. Here, you keep the number of tokens the same, but you still do more computation than a regular transformer. And if you train it that way during pre-training, the model learns to reuse some of those layers. So this is an extension of that, where this is done dynamically. So for each token, the system can decide how much it should do recursion for each layer. Okay, so for some tokens, it might decide to go only once, but for other tokens, it might do multiple iterations.
How does it decide that?
I don't know, but it's in the paper. There should be some sort of a router module somewhere. It's like a mixture of experts, right? There is something that decides to which expert you go. Here, there is something like that, which decides how many times I need to go over this layer.
Heuristic that they created to like decide like how to learn from this token. Yes.
No, it's learned.
Learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's still a heuristic, right?
I don't know, to be honest.
Everything is heuristic unless it's hard.
I mean, I think it's not hard coded by the authors that what you should do. So the system will learn over time that there is this routing module that decides how many times you are going to loop over this layer. This is like very adaptive compute with the same amount of weights. You see, this one is test time reinforcement learning. It's again, I didn't understand what they do actually, but I keep this for 2 reasons. First, for you to know that there is a lot of things happening in test time. So people are trying to adapt test time to learn a few things test time, right? So this test time computation direction is very active. The second reason I have kept this paper is that it is linking to one of other their papers, which they think is very important. So you see inside the poster, they have another paper screenshot, which is a survey of RL for large reasoning models. So if you want to understand what's going on in this area, I highly recommend this one. It's like, I don't know, lots of authors, and I hope they do proper classification of all those GRPO style approaches in one paper, so you can understand. I think for the molecular optimization project, this might be a useful source for ideas. This one was about tuning the tokenizer after training. So if you think about it, all our tokenizers that we are currently using, they are pre-trained in advance and are not changed later, right? Like you do BPE or whatever for large language models, you tokenize the text and that's it. You don't touch the tokenizer during pre-training of your language model. And same for vision-based tokenizers, right? We do, I don't know, VQVAE or some kind of extension of that, but we do it in advance, then we don't change it. So here what they say is that you could do, like this is an image, you have a quantizer, this is VQVAE tokenizer, and then you have projection, and then large language model, and then decoder, which gives you the image tokenization, right? So, for example, like Gemini or GPT-4o, they use system like this. So the images and text are mixed, but they have separate tokenizers. So you tokenize image, tokenize text, and then mix the tokens into one sequence and do autoregressive modeling of those tokens. When you need to get back the image, you need the decoder on top of the tokens generated by your autoregressive model to get back to the pixel space. And the regular pipeline is this one. So you have the VQ tokenizer and the decoder in advance, you train it, you fix it, and then you train the language model. Here they say that let's continue training this entire thing during pre-training of the language model. And I think they are doing vision language model and text to image generation. They somehow benchmark it. I'm not familiar with those benchmarks, but they compare it with, I don't know, DALL-E, right? Which is, DALL-E is not the current, but the previous generation of image generation in ChatGPT. I think the current one is not DALL-E. And yeah, they have also Armen's Chameleon here somewhere. And they show that with very small model, like 1.5 billion parameters, they get very good results, like comparable to DALL-E, at least better than DALL-E 2, and in some cases equivalent to DALL-E 3. I think this is pretty impressive, the numbers, but I don't know. I haven't seen the examples or the quality or whatever. But it kind of shows that we lose a lot by not training the tokenizer later. I don't think I understood this one. This is about dropping some tokens. Frequency aware should be related to when you look at the attention map, you could do Fourier transformation on attention map and get some frequency-based data. And they think that it can be used to guide which tokens I want to merge. But I didn't read the details, so I don't even understand what kind of data they are using. Is it like image tokens? It looks like an image thing, right? Because it is grouped even spatially this way. But yeah, this requires more analysis. There was another NVIDIA paper about segmentation. So I think they change downsampling and kind of, again, I don't understand the details, but they essentially create a segmentation system based on VITs. So I think in some of our projects, even today we discussed it, right? With UNet and stuff, maybe this should be checked as well to see what they are doing. I didn't look into the details of the pipeline, but looks like a new way of having a segmentation system based on vision transformer. There was this one that I think we looked at it, at least with the vision team before. So this meta clip is the Facebook's version of Clip, and this is the second version of that. It was publicly available before, so it's not new. I mean, all NeurIPS papers were submitted in May, right? So if they also put it on archive in May, it means that these are already 6 months old or 7 months old papers. So some of them got already popular, so we know. And not only we know, and you can say like I was not able to take a picture of this poster without many people's heads because like it was always crowded, right? What they did in MetaClip compared to previous stuff is that they added a lot of data, including non-English data, and they could scale it more. They did some curation, which might be interesting, and managed to get better results with larger scale. Yeah. Yeah, cool. So they have this nice picture that internet is highly imbalanced. So there are few concepts for which you have a lot of data, but then for others you don't have at all. Yeah, we need to look into this. Then there was this perception encoder, which was, again, we have seen it because Dino version 3 was comparing to this, so this was before Dino version 3. Yeah, and Jepo, so yeah. Again, I don't understand much what are they doing, but also another reason I put this because this is my favorite type of poster where they have the title, but then like part of the title is the main message of the paper. So you can already, without even reading the abstract, from the top part of the poster, you understand what's going on. It says that the best visual embeddings are not at the output of the network. Again, some idea that we have known for other types of networks before. Even in one of our papers, we talked about it. But yeah, it's good. This was pretty fun. Again, I didn't understand the math, but they said that if you are trying to model an object and if you have like pictures of this object from different points of view, then the camera location and orientation can be used as a positional encoding, right? I really like those ideas because in our minds, positional encoding is usually just very frozen, like it's, I don't know, location of the token in the text or whatever, but you can do whatever you need in the position embedding, right?
Like instead of writing the modality token, case,
Uh-huh.
the positional token of the camera to the audio.
Yeah, but in our case, the camera is always like,
Yeah, in our case, right?
yeah. Here, yeah. Yeah, like we experimented with the satellite project. We used band information in the embedding, like if it's red, green, or I don't know, infrared, this is encoded as another positional embedding. It's not positional, it's another embedding. But then you could do camera location as an embedding. So this one, like if you take a Bayer transformer without any positional embedding, it is permutation invariant, right? Because, I mean, all the tokens have equivalent computation. But then you add positional embeddings and it's not permutation invariant anymore. So this entire LLM stuff that happened over these years was not permutation invariant. Now this paper says, okay, let's bring permutation invariance back to a certain degree. They say that, for example, if you do multi-document summarization, you don't want positional embeddings to decide the order of the documents. Like you want to summarize 3 documents. In current models, you put them one after another, right? And suddenly you have an order between those. So like the latest one might have higher attention, whatever, right? And this higher attention will be governed by the positional embedding of it. Now they say, let's try to do it in a way that you have kind of a set. Like, I think this example is a good one. So it says, where is the Eiffel Tower? And then there are like 2 tokens for Heidelberg, 2 tokens for Zurich, 1 token for Paris, and 2 tokens for Budapest. So now you want where is the Eiffel Tower part to have sequential order, right? Because the tokens order matters in the sentence. But then whether Heidelberg, Zurich, or Paris comes, this order doesn't matter. So the way they do it is that they give number 5 positional embedding, both for Heidelberg and the first token of Heidelberg, first token of Zurich, first token of Paris, first token of Budapest. So they get the same positional embedding in a way, so that it doesn't matter which word comes first. And I think they have this color in a way to distinguish between them or something like that. So it's like a mix of regular positional encoding and some permutation invariant encoding. Mhm.
Are they solved positional bias of the negatives?
Probably yes, right?
Well, choice question translate task with different problem and answers.
Yeah, that's a good question. So is this a real problem? That's the question, right? So I think if you do multiple choice questions, and if these things are very long, I think modern LLMs might give different answers. I don't think with these short examples it will matter, to be honest. But I think when the context gets long, this will become more and more difficult. So they say they had multiple choice benchmarks. We compare random order accuracy and adversarial order accuracy. We try all combinations to find an adversarial order.
Coming back to the vision task, teacher and VIT thousand environment to the order of the plan, right?
Yes, in our case. But yeah, in our case, it's not a problem, right? Because in our case, when we do positional embedding, it's not positional, channel embedding, it is not tied to the position of the token. So in our case, in that sense, it is already a set. But if you do regular ChatGPT, it's not the case. So yeah, and they showed some improvements.
They need to train with this recording.
Yes.
So pre-training and then.
Good question. I think they didn't. They did fine-tuning only. That's what I understand. This one, do you remember? We discussed a lot this paper that vision transformers need registers. So this was the follow-up on Dino paper. They showed that sometimes Dino decides to put a weird amount of attention to some random token in the image. Look at this. So if this is your input, and then you calculate the attention of the CLS token with respect to all patch tokens, sometimes like Dino is doing this. So regularly you would expect that these interesting objects will get more attention, like here. But then there are like, I don't know, 1 token here, 5 tokens here that get very weird, very high attention. And if you check the picture patches, which do this correspond to? They are usually very flat regions which have no information. So the model decides to put a lot of attention to these stupid areas in the image. So what they did in this paper, they added fake tokens next to CLS. So they have CLS token, then they have, I don't know, 4 separate tokens which are called registers. These are not used by anything, so you don't supervise them. You just randomly initialize and that's it. And then you have the patch tokens. When you train Dino this way, this extra attention that was previously allocated to those patches, now they get allocated to those fake register tokens, and you don't have this problem anymore. So your attention masks, attention maps become very beautiful and informative. So this paper was from last year, and it had vision transformers need registers. So what they do now, they say, you see, vision transformers need registers, but there are 2 words in between, don't need trained registers. So what they say is that you don't have to train them during pre-training. You can create them test time. And this will continue to capture these extra attention weights. I didn't get the full algorithm, to be honest, but it says that you don't have to do it originally. By the way, it's important to know that the same concept exists in language-based LLMs, and it is called attention sink. This same problem that these guys discovered, it was also discovered for text, and the solution was attention sink. The idea is that sometimes you don't need look, when you do attention, you always have softmax, right? So it has to be done in a way that the total sum of the attention is 1. So it happens that in certain scenarios, you don't have that much attention. You don't want to put enough information. And then if you want to make the sum equal to 1, there is some amount that is needed, which is kind of fake. And the model learns to put it in one random token. So if you have special attention sinks or register tokens, the model will learn to put this extra attention to there, right?
They will learn if we train these registers and train.
Yeah, so
would we initialize them at this time?
I don't remember, to be honest, but they figured it out. This is the Berkeley team, Alexey Efrov. Then I found 2 more papers for dataset curation that I didn't look into, but these come from DeepMind and other clever places, so we'll probably need to look into the data rater. And then there was this one, computational budget should be considered in data selection. Actually, we know about this, right? Even this Zach Lipton's paper had this idea that depending on how much compute you have, you might want to remove or keep some of the data. I didn't get into the details. I think we just need to look into this later. So this one was very, very, very interesting. I spent a lot of time next to it. If you remember, there was a paper from Hugging Face, I think last year, one of the best papers at NeurIPS', which was trying to tell that if you don't have a lot of data, if you train a lot for multiple epochs, the impact of the same data being repeated gets lower and lower gradually. I think they had this picture. So here every line is one model based on the size, okay? number of parameters. And then you have like 1 epoch, 2 epoch, 4 epoch, 8 epoch, 16, 64, right? So this dashed line is what a normal scaling law would predict. So if you didn't repeat data, you had fresh data, and you add your data with this same model, you would get your loss go down with this curve. This is a regular scaling law. But if you don't have much data and you start to repeat the same data again and again, for the first 4 epochs, it behaves similarly to the new data. But after that, it gets like less and less impact. And then at some point, like, I don't know, after 64 epochs, it becomes constant. It doesn't learn anything new, right? So this was discovered in another paper 2 years ago. So first of all, they repeated these experiments and they showed that it holds, right? But what they did, they also created a diffusion-based language model. And they showed that for diffusion, this slowdown happens after like 100 epochs. So diffusion can extract knowledge from the same data like even with 100 epochs.
But did you show any downstream tasks?
Good question. Yes. They had it somehow. So, but the problem is that I think the kind of weird part of this paper is that this effect, when diffusion gets more benefit from training more, happens only when you have very few data. So their main chart is this one, which is 100 million tokens. This is flops, okay, training compute. The blue one is autoregressive. You can see that if you have 100 million tokens after, I don't know, before you reach 100 epochs, you already are saturated. It doesn't get better anymore. But with diffusion, it works worse before, but then after 100 epochs, there is a critical point after which it gets better than autoregressive. And this depends on the size of the data as well. So they also did 50 million and 100 million. But if you have like billions of tokens, I don't think anyone has enough compute to reach that critical point. Okay, so probably if you have a lot more data and you don't have compute to repeat 100 times, it's better to go autoregressive. But if your data is limited and you can afford to go 100 epochs, it's better to go diffusion. That's what they claim. And I think, I met a colleague there, Greg Verstig. Greg, this guy, he worked with Aram Galestian a lot. Now he's in UC Riverside. I asked him what he's working on now. He said that, he wants to explore the space of generative models. Like autoregressive is one type of a generative model. Diffusion is like on the other end of the spectrum. Like what else is in this space? Like, can we design different generative models that are in between those two, or like that's what is his research focus. And I think in this paper they had something like that. They suggested a way to kind of mix diffusion and autoregressive in a very weird way. I don't remember the details, but it had some idea. Okay. So this one again, I didn't understand much, but I think this is the only paper that I have seen that is close to alpha evolve topic. Why this is important? So there was a funny part with the discussion with Greg. So Greg asked me how things are going, like what are you doing now? I said, yeah, we continue on this, I don't know, molecular projects, but there is a bigger competition now. Many other teams are doing similar things, and it's getting harder to navigate and stuff. He was like, Rand, you were the first person that told me that molecular generation as an AI direction is an important one. And after you told me, I have seen that more and more teams are working on that. And yeah, now I see it everywhere. And he was like, looks like you understand the trends, see the trends earlier than we. And he was like, can you tell now what are the next trends that in a few years everyone will be doing? I said, yeah, and my answer was that it should be around alpha evolve, like all these methods to use AI to optimize something. But there was very little of that in NeurIPS this year, and I think this paper was one of those. It's algorithm discovery, but I didn't see the details. We just need to get deeper, but it's very few. I mean, other than Alpha Evolve and other than the guy, Indian guy who came to DataFest, I don't know many applications. Okay, so I think this is enough for the general ML part. I will show you a few things from the biology molecular stuff. So the very first day of the conference, it was like before the main conference days, there was another day of workshops and presentations and like very random stuff. And there was a presentation by this team called BioHub. So BioHub is a Chan Zuckerberg initiative project. So Chan Zuckerberg initiative is Facebook's Zuckerberg and his wife. They started this nonprofit and they invest a lot in biotech. So they provide grants, actually, there are grant applications, but they also do their own research. So recently they took their research part and also brought people who worked on the protein language models, ESM. This was a separate company. The company was called Evolutionary Scale. So they kind of acquired this company in a way, like this nonprofit acquired a startup. I don't know how it works, but essentially they merged these teams together and became BioHub. So there was a presentation by one of the leaders of BioHub, and it was very interesting and maybe not very AI oriented, but I want to show a few slides from this. So he started from this idea that the nature of life is like very multi-scale, right? You can go down to angstroms and look at the atoms in small molecules, right? And then you can go bigger like proteins, and then you can go to larger things like cells, which contains lots of proteins, right? And then you can go even larger and see what's going on in the tissue. And then the largest level is like, I don't know, MRI or whatever, right? Like this entire organism. And it says that the life is like operating at all those scales, and each scale has its own tools and its own AI models and everything, right? So these different scales are not really connected in modern science in meaningful way. So now they say that we should try to integrate all those scales into the same AI pipeline in a way. It talks about a virtual cell. It talks about like the spatial structure, right? If you have something here and something there, the spatial arrangement of the pieces inside the cell matters. So, and I think I liked this one, that you get very different kinds of data from living organisms. The sequencing is the DNA sequencing, right? If you take the DNA or RNA, you get this sequence of nucleotides. This is transcriptomics, which is which genes are expressed This is light microscopy, that you take a picture of something. And then there is this cryo-ET, which is a technology to actually use electron microscopes. So this is not based on light, this is based on electrons to see the structure of the proteins, like very small things. Right, and he says that at BioHub they have all of those equipments. So they take pictures of this, I don't know, tracking cells where this is 1 millimeter. They have better microscopes that go 10 micrometer, and they have this cryo-based things. And this one is this cryo electron tomography that they mentioned, which is the most zoom, right? So the lowest level. So one of the key ideas that they had is they are trying to do all those experiments for the same object. So they take something, I don't know, from blood or whatever. They do these imaging things, and then the same material goes to cryo-ET, so they have data at different scales for the same object. Right? What they claim is that this never happened. Like all these microscopes existed, but they were in different labs, so they didn't collaborate. They never. It's like parallel data, right? So they're claiming that they're trying to do parallel data collection by using all those technologies. And one of the ideas is that, like, if you do this cryo-electron tomography, you kind of distract the molecules. So you, like, the technology works in a way that if you image these things, you don't have these objects anymore, right? So if you want to do this parallel capturing, you have to be careful to arrange it in a clever way so you don't kill it before the next experiment, right? So all these things now are taken into consideration. So they say that the most important scale is the molecular scale. And I think one of the main claims was that this technology, so these are the pictures of this electron microscope that actually does it. They claim that this technology is more powerful than people are using it. So it's possible to extract more information by using this technology, and that's their focus. So they actually have people who understand these machines, not only as users, but they also can change a few things on the machine, and like they are also kind of innovating on the machine itself and the usage process of these machines. Actually, he also said a nice sentence. He said that biology is extremely complicated, and he believes that humanity doesn't yet have enough data to understand biology. He said that if you have, like, I don't know, AI super intelligence, and you give all existing biology-related data to this AI, it will still not be able to understand biology and, I don't know, cure diseases and, I don't know, solve the problems that we care, because there is just not enough data. So he thinks that the bottleneck is in the data capturing, and with all those things that I mentioned, right? So multi-scale, parallel, and all that stuff.
I'd like to comment. I
Yeah.
remember that also was saying
Uh-huh.
that only the data from DNA sequences that we already have is
Yeah,
much
yeah.
more than all national data in the internet. So even in this case, it's just nothing very.
You see, so in every NeurIPS presentation, there is an automatic speech recognition that shows the text below. It's relatively good quality, but sometimes it makes like very funny mistakes. I think here it's fine. And he mentioned like cable management job. Like, can you imagine working on those things? Yeah, so where they actually use AI. So they use AI in this data collection process. So they say that if you take the tomography result, then you have to do reconstruction, right? Because this tomographer, I don't know what it records, right? It doesn't record the picture itself. It records something that you need to use to reconstruct the image. Like even in MRI, right? This is not simple. There are very complicated algorithms that are reconstructing the picture. So that's like one stage. Then there is segmentation, some sort of processing of this data, right? And then annotation, what is doing what and stuff. So they claim that they are using AI to make these things faster. For example, from after reconstruction, if you want to do segmentation to understand what these atoms are doing, now they could cut down this process a lot, right? Here, they showed that, I think this is about this first stage, reconstruction, that they innovated there as well. And you can see that he refers to papers which are published in like Nature Methods, for example. So they are innovating on the methods of faster collection of data using this technology. Okay, they believe that this is more important now to innovate there. And then they do AI models to do some of those steps in the pipeline. So last year they did Kaggle competition for object identification from this cryo data. And they were very happy with that. They said that, I don't know, the best models were very good. And I think the winner was from NVIDIA, actually. And they use these models now in their data generation processes. And they were so happy that they said that they're going to have more competitions next year. They're like, stay tuned. We will add more competitions that accelerate some of these steps, okay, in this pipeline. That's how they think AI should be used right now. Okay, yeah, so this was the presentation. And yeah, after the presentation, there was a very long Q&A, lots of questions. I didn't understand like half of them because there was a lot domain expertise involved. And then there was a question by In Silico Medicine CEO, this Alex Shaharankov guy, he was there. And then it became like discussion between this guy and a few other people there. Someone from BioHub, someone from DARPA. Like it became a very lively, interesting discussion. So he was actually trying to say that these virtual cells are not very useful for drug discovery. Which is like, why are you doing all those things to understand cells if you can't use it for drug discovery? Yeah, and I talked to him a lot. I said that we are working on benchmarking. He said they are very interested, so I should follow up to see what they want to do. He kind of has in mind to create an entire, like, I don't know, pipeline of benchmarks and things like that for drug discovery. He authored a few things, right? There was this Moses benchmark. I don't know if you've worked on molecules, you have seen this, right? It's the very first benchmarking platform for molecular generation, and he is the last author. So they have done a lot previously. Yeah, and he gave me his card. We talked a lot, so I think we should try to keep this connection. There were many other things in the main conference, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 papers related to molecules. I will quickly go through a few of them. This is this direction that I really don't like, but I want us to be aware that they are mixing text and molecules. So this model can do mole to mole. For example, you can ask it to do forward reaction prediction. You could do retrosynthesis, which means you keep the molecule and it will predict how you can synthesize this molecule, like what you should mix with something else to get this. Then you have mol to num, which means you give a molecule, it gives you some number. Mol to text, which is crazy. You give it molecule and it does captioning or question answering, or maybe more important is this one, experimental procedure prediction. And then there is text to small, which is text-guided molecular design, which is, I don't know, I don't find useful, but people are doing. So they are trying to do this with one big model, start from Llama, and then do, I don't know, a lot of things on it. There were benchmarks, papers that I think we need to look into closer. This is property reasoning, whatever that means. So with language models, they do something about properties of molecules. This is also bringing molecular information. So they constructed a dataset, text dataset about molecules, and they use it somewhere. This one was a good one. This is like a faster AlphaFold in a way. So I think they do flow matching with neural networks. This is from industry, Yambik Therapeutics. I think they have a strong team and they have a model. I think this neural plexer should be open source. Yeah. Again, you give it a protein, you give a molecule, and it generates the 3D structure similar to AlphaFold, but better at postbusters. So it's making less errors in physics and is fast to do inference. But they still need this entire pipeline of MSA, this sequence alignment stuff, so it's not very efficient. Yeah, so there were a few things like this in the conference. Like, I don't know, if you want to work, they give some puzzles, you solve it and WhatsApp your answer, and then, I don't know, you get an interview or whatever. That's fancy things. There was this virtual screening related thing that we need to look. I don't understand much. There was this funny thing that someone, instead of a poster, posted this, that he's looking for a PhD. He has a first author paper at NeurIPS', which means he does not even start PhD, but already has a paper. He's interested in AI plus biology and is looking for PhD opportunities. There is a lot of flow matching, again, post-generation. I didn't look at the details. Other ways of doing AI for docking, molecular representation learning, masked graph autoencoders, again, some representation learning. These are a couple of benchmarks that are not from molecules. This is, I think, very important for our satellite efforts. So this one collected a data set for tree mortality. So where are the dead trees in the forests? So someone manually annotated areas where trees dropped in the forest, and they want you to predict this. And they show that a lot of the density of the trees is getting lower and lower, but you can't really see it. Like, you see the picture, it's all green, or most of it is green, but like over 5 years, a lot of trees inside have fallen. So there is no contiguous place of disappeared trees, but actually the number of trees is very low, right? So how can you predict this? This is like a very real world problem that I think we can target. This is another thing, again, with Sentinel data. And then I want to briefly talk about this. So there is this test of time award. They are giving an award to papers that were published 10 years ago in the same conference. And now we think that these papers were very important, so we give an award to the author. So the winning paper was faster RCNN for object detection. It was from NeurIPS' 2015. And one of the authors is Kai Ming He, which has all the good papers, right? I don't know if you follow him. He's also the ResNet guy. the funny thing about his papers is that all his papers have a lot of citations. Like his H index is 76, and I don't know, if he has probably 100. He has like 93 papers, and H index is 76, which means that almost all papers that he writes are very good. It's very rare. Yeah, so he's a co-author on almost all important papers of computer vision recently. And his presentation was very funny. So he started to show papers to show the history of object detection. And every paper he mentioned in the presentation received Test of Time award at one day. Let me see. Like, okay. SIFT paper. You know what is SIFT?
Descriptors.
Yes, you know, people who have proper computer vision education, they know SIFT. Before deep learning, they were doing feature extraction from pictures to match the different pictures. For example, like if I have a picture of the same objects from here and here, and I want to match the objects, you need to extract features and then do the matching. So SIFT was the original, very good, very high speed. OpenCV has the implementation, and it's very popular. A lot of applications.
It's forbidden for commercial use.
Yeah.
This was a huge problem.
Okay.
SIFT and software all were forbidden.
Okay, so you had to pay the authors. Yeah, nice. Yeah, so this was published in 1999 and then got Test of Time award in 2011. Then this HOG is the like even more complicated features that also got CVPR Test of Time 2005, 2015. And then every other paper he showed had that one. There was this workshop this was very funny. So in 2012, when ImageNet was solved with deep learning, there was a discussion whether this large-scale deep learning will also work on object detection, because at that point, ImageNet was only classification, right? No object detection. So there was a debate that I don't know what will happen and so on. And there was this comment there that Alyosha Efrosh, we have seen his paper today, right? Which one was that? From Berkeley. I think it was this register paper. Yeah, this guy. Alexei Efrosh, in many years ago, said that why not just try deep learning on Pascal Vogt? Pascal Vogt was the object detection benchmark. Yeah, and they did that, and it started to work. It started with RCNN, then faster RCNN. So all those papers got Test of Time awards. And then he said next chapter was one-stage detection, which is YOLO and SSD. And this is CVPR 2016. It was like a hint that probably this will get the Test of Time award next year. Because every paper he mentioned in this presentation already had Test of Time award. But this is already 2016, so 10 years didn't pass it. Yeah, and he had this last slide. So he says that when Columbus was traveling to America, this white area was the only thing we knew about the world, right? So we knew Europe, and there was this narrow line that we knew about Atlantic Ocean. And he says that this is our current state of AI. So we have a lot of things to discover yet. So America is not yet discovered according to his view. Yeah, and this is Lucine. She's from USC. She had a paper on electroencephalography. She's in our Slack. And yeah, paper is called Barista. I don't remember what they were doing. Okay, so it was people are watching a video and their EEG is being collected. So they want to predict some features of the video from the EEG data. Okay, you want to predict, for example, are they speaking in the video right now or not? By looking at the EEG data of my brain.
What is EEG data?
This. Yeah, it was interesting. And there was only one paper in the main conference from Armenia by Arshak. He couldn't come because they didn't give him a visa.
Minasan?
No. Minasan. Minasan is not in Armenia. And yeah, I took the poster and put there. Actually, a lot of posters didn't have people next to them, which means that a lot of people didn't get visas or didn't have funding to travel, or mostly from China, by the way, which could be a Trump thing. But yeah, there were like, I don't know, maybe 20% of the posters didn't have people next to them. It's getting 6 p.m., but I still want to show a few things. Okay, I will probably leave this VLN part for later, but I want to show one workshop presentation that I really liked. Where can I find them? Give me a second. It was about discovering new superconductor materials. This is Oleg. Many of you know Oleg, right? He was presenting in a workshop, an oral presentation for his climate-related work. But this was Sunday. When was that? Is it here? This day, the same workshop, but this is world models. Okay, I think it was this one. This one. Okay, so University of Florida. Oh, Manuel was asking, but he left. What they are trying to do, they want to use AI to find new superconductors. So superconductor, I don't know how many of you are familiar, these are very important materials, and they have features that if we can make them to work in room temperature, a lot of the technologies will be revolutionized. There will be a lot less energy needed and so on. But people cannot find superconductors that are superconductive in room temperature. They find materials that are superconductive in very low temperatures, like, I don't know, 5 Kelvin. Okay, so there are a few that are, I don't know, 100 Kelvin or what. But the idea here was to find new superconducting materials. Okay, so what they did, they took a large database of materials in general and pre-trained a diffusion model on it. And then they fine-tuned on a small data set of superconductors. Okay, and then they did fancy generation and generated 200,000 materials that could be superconductive, right? So then they have a very big filtering pipeline. I don't understand most of it, but let me quickly show. So they take these materials generated by AI, 200,000, and then they do relaxation, which means like physics-based optimization of the atom locations, and then do deduplication. Apparently, a lot of those generated materials were the same, right? After relaxation, they become the same, and they duplicate, remove, they end up with 30,000. Then they do some, I don't know, energy calculations and use filters. All of these filters are heavily domain expert designed, right? So they are experts of semiconductors. They know what they are looking for. So they apply these filters. There is this neural network that predicts what is the temperature of superconductivity. Okay, so we want high temperature superconductors, but for each superconductor, there is a temperature before which it is superconductive and after which it is not. Okay, so this threshold temperature is what is predicted by this network. So they took only those ones which have predicted superconductor temperature higher than 5 Kelvin. Then they did other filtering here. They did DFT on 8000. So DFT is very expensive calculation, right? You see sometimes our friends from Hikes group are doing those on our machines. So they did only on 8000. They calculated a few things based on that and did additional filtering, some stability filtering, another AI-based filtering, and they ended up with 700 candidates. I think they went to a lab and generated and synthesized all of those. So they synthesized and then started to look at what happened, so what was possible to synthesize, and then they started to measure some of the properties in the lab, right? And they found eventually these 18 formulas. Formula here means like which types of atoms are used in those superconductors. Okay, so they ended up with these 18 groups. So for each of them, they predicted the superconducting temperature and actually measured it. So I think they had a few more filtering steps here. I think they tried to test whether these materials are semiconductor at 4 Kelvin, like even lower temperature. And those that are not, they just quickly removed. So they focused on things that are at least superconductive at 4 Kelvin, so that now we look for actually how high temperature we can go with those materials. For example, for this one, they measured that it is superconductive up to 7.3 Kelvin. Although these AI models were predicting 13 or whatever, so AI models were very optimistic. Actually, in reality, they were worse. And they also did this X-ray stuff to understand the actual structure. Okay, because there is structure that your AI predicted, but then you did the experiment to synthesize it. We don't really know if we synthesized the same structure that AI predicted. You have to check it again. So they have checked and understood what's going on, so I don't understand these words. And they found that for many of them, the structure that they have seen in the experiment is a known structure. Okay, so physicists already knew that these type of structures can be superconductive. They just didn't know this combination of atoms. Okay, but then they discovered a few structures that were completely new. Okay, I think some of those were completely new, and people didn't know that there exist superconductors with these structures. And now, like, the next step would be to manually change the atoms in these structures. Maybe it would allow to find even better ones. All right, so they actually discovered new superconductor structures at 5 Kelvin, not at high temperatures, because I mean, obviously, in the data set, there are no high temperature superconductors, so it doesn't generalize. And this guy had a slide. I couldn't take a picture of that. The slide said, sorry, we couldn't find new high temperature. So we focus only on low temperature. Yeah, but I like this because it's like completely end to end. Okay, so you start from pre-training and reach to an actual new structure in the lab. And to do that,
Why was it?
I think it's published. This is a kind of keynote in a workshop. It's not a. It should be published. I just don't even know who was the author. Pawan Prakash. Let's see if they had. This is the first author. Okay, it's not even published yet. Yeah, I think this can go even, I don't know, Nature type of journals, right? Because this is very impressive work. Okay. I think we can stop here and continue maybe another time. I just want to update you on a few things. So first of all, our supercomputer is getting ready. You can see these are 8 nodes of GPUs. This is already placed. So today they started to fill in this one, which is 600 terabytes of storage and a few management computers that we need to connect to run those. So the data center is finalized, cooling system and stuff is tested, all works.
By the way, where is the showcase and data center? Where?
Yerevan State University, կենտրոնականի տակը։
On Balloon?
Պատմված չի, կենտրոնականը, որ մտնում ես, բարձրանում ես, չէ, ագին։ Իսկ իրականում առաջի հարկը մնում է տակը, հենց գետնի վրա է, այլ։ Կարանք գնանք ցույց տամ, ես այդ դրսի բաներն է, չիլերներ, միլերներ, որը տեսնենք ինչքան շուխուռ է անելու։ Հիմա հագին քիչ է շուխուռը պոլինագրուսկայի տակ, բայց այդ ոնց որ թե նրանից է, որ ձմեռ է։ Պոլինագրուսկան։ Ասա ցույց տամ։ Այսա։ 150 կիլովատի կալորիֆեր է միացրած, որ տաք հոտ փչի data center-ի մեջ, էդի այնա ինչ որ սաղ կոմպերը մաքսիմալ աշխատեն, սիմուլյացիա է, էլի, մինչև կոմպերի դնելը։ Ճիշտն ասած, ինձ թվում է այդ թվերը լավ զապասով են ասում, այդ որ սուպեր կոմպը ասում են 120 կիլովատ տանելու է, այդքանը չի տանելու, ասենք full utilization-ի ժամանակ ասի 100 կիլովատ հասնի։ Չէ։ Ոնց որ կա մեջը ջուր, բայց էդի ջրային սառեցումը էդի չի, էլի։ Այս սրանք բան են, հետևը վենտիլյատորներ են, որոնք այս հետևի այս երկու շլանգը, այս սրա մեջ կա ջուր ու անտիֆրիզ, այդ է այտենց պտտվում, գնում է դուրս չի լեռում, սառում է, գալիս է հետ, բայց այս սենյակի մեջ էսի չի մտնում կոմպերի մեջ, էլի կոմպերը վենտիլյատորով են օդը հանում, այսինքն ուղղակի օդը տաքացնում է այս ջուրը հանում է դուրս, այդ տաքությունը ու պտտում հետ է բերում։ Չգիտեմ, չեմ հասկանում։ Այսենց այս տրուբեկով սենց մտնում է տակը, գնում է ներքևի հարկում ինչ-որ սենց էկզոտիկ բաներ են, սենց բաչոկ-մաչոկներն ճնշումի կարգավորիչներ է, տեսի ինչերի բաների համար չեմ հասկանում։ Էսի այդ հիմնական բակը այդ ջրի, բայց ինքը փակցիկլ է, այսինքն մի անգամ լցնում ես ու, չգիտեմ, տարին մեկ պետք է նայես ճնշումը ինչքան է։
Ձերը կարած սրան ջրով ջերուցեն է երկու հարկ։
Ես հետի քննարկում էին, բայց ինչ-որ չեղավ չեմ հիշում ինչի։ Այս սարքողները առաջ օրվանից կպել էին, որ պետք է մի ձև էդի կպցնել ԵՊՀ-ի ջեռուցմանը։ Կարծեմ հասցին ջեռուցման համակարգին չեն կարան ինչ-որ դուշերին բանին, տաք ջրին։ Ասենք երբեմն չկա տաք ջուր, դուշերն էլ ֆիզկուլտում են։ Իսկով էսի ինձ թվում է մյուս շաբաթ պետք է մի ձև միացնենք, էսի։ Շատ հետաքրքիր տեխնիկա են օգտագործում այս ծանր բաները բերելու, այս սենց ամեն մեկը 150 կիլո է, էլի։ Այս կեսը հանում էին մեջից, որտեղ ստեղ ամեն ինչը հանովի դնովի է։ Շատ մոդուլյար է սարքած, էլի։ Այդ GPU-ների մասը հանում էին, առանց GPU-ների բերում էին 4 հոգով, ասենք այդ կապ դառնում էր կարող է մի 80 կիլո են։ Հետո հա, 8 Այդ DGX տերմինը NVIDIA-ի տերմինն է, այսինքն իրանք DGX բառը գրում են մենակ այն կոմպերի վրա, որ լրիվ իրանք են սարքում։ Օրինակ այդ հիմա ԵՊՀ-ում եղածը, որ մենք օգտագործում ենք, դա DGX-ը, որտեղ հենց NVIDIA-ի արտադրանքն է։ Այս սրան HGX են ասում, որտեղ էսի էլի հաշավոր է, բայց ուրիշի սարքած, ուրիշի հավաքած է, էլի։ GPU-ն NVIDIA-ինն է, բայց կոմպը կոնկրետ այս դեպքում այդ սուպեր մայկրոնը հավաքեն։ Չէ։ Սա կանենք, ես այդ 64-ը չգիտեմ հələ ինչ ենք անելու, բայց 32-ս անպայման ուզում եմ անել։ Այսինքն պետք է սովորենք այդ անպայման multi-node training, տեսնենք դեպի ոնց է աշխատում, ինչքան է դանդաղում։ Սրա վրա այդ նույն սլարմից դնելու են։ Լսենք գնա, տեսնենք ինչ արնում։
Sense լոգիկական կիսելու բանը չէ, ուրիշ կա որ 32 10 դրանից բացի չես կարող։ Դրա միշտ է դա։ Սորինակ Քանադինի որ մի անգամ 232-ը, սլորմը երրորդը չկա։ Դաժե եթե ազատ դες իշխանությունների նկատի է, որ լոգիկական սեկշնների նման է, like volume-ի նման է, HDD part, partition part։
Չգիտեմ, ստեղ չեմ պատկերացնում, որ ինձ լուրջ պետք է լինի։ Բայց հիմա այս սրա սեթափներով են զբաղվում, պետք է նայել։ Ո՞րը հա տեսա։ Սլարմ արտադրող ֆիրմային առավ են վիզա։ Հետաքրքիր է դա ինչ է նշանակում մեր համար։ Okay. Այնց այնքան էլ չէ։ Այսինքն ավելի շատ մեր խեղճին է։ Ես ասում եմ, որ պետք է հասնենք նրան, որ 4 տարում 100 հոգի մարդ սարքենք, որ կարում է, ասենք, 32 GPU-ով տրեյնինգ անի։ Ու տենց օգտակար տրեյնինգ, էլի։ Այսինքն research-ով է այդ ճանապարհը, ոչ թե ասենք վերցնենք 100 հոգու սովորացնենք նույն, ասենք, Q-ը fine-tune անել նույն դատայի վրա, ասենք, հեսա 100 հոգի եղավ, այլ ասենք կոնկրետ պրոյեկտներ էլի, հա, մեկը կլինի, չգիտեմ, Sputnik, մեկը մոլեկուլ, մեկը ինչ, մեկը ինչ։ Ես դրան եմ տանում, որտեվ մենակ ես չի էլի, հեսա մյուս կոմպերներ են միանալու են, եւ դրանք մասին չգիտեմ, ինչքան գիտեք, նորը տենց ես պրեզենտացիան ցույց եմ տվել, եկեք ձեզ ցույց տամ որոշ բաներ, որ ասում եմ, եթե համարենք, որ Հայաստանում մի այսքան GPU կար, հա, ասենք ես ամեն քառակուսին 8 հատ է, ԵՊՀ-ում կար 16 հատ, ու երևի ուրիշ ֆիրմաներում էլ, չգիտեմ, ասենք օրինակ CRISP-ում ունենք, չէ՞, կարծեմ մի 3 նոդ թե ինչքան։ Հետո չգիտեմ, ասենք, в общем, կլներ էլի մի 2-3 այսքան էլ։ Հիմա ասում եմ, այս 64-ն ավելանում, եւս 8 նոդ, հետո մարտին կամ ապրիլին կմիանա այս Elevate cluster-ը, որ Սևանում են սարքում 500 GPU-ով, եւ հետո հունիսի կողմերը կմիանա Firebird-ը 6000 GPU-ով, եւ այն օրը տենց կիսագաղտնի ասեցին, որ Firebird-ը երկրորդ stage-ի համար էքսպորտ լիցենզիա է ստացել 40000 GPU-ի, բայց հələ պետք է ֆինանսավորումը բանը լուծեն էլի, բայց ասենք այս 6000-ի համար ամենադժվարը էքսպորտ լիցենզիան էր, մնացած ամեն ինչը լուծված էր, էքսպորտ լիցենզիան չէին տալի։ Հիմա մեզ տվել են, դրանից 2 շաբաթ հետո էլ 40000-ի են տվել, որը ինձ թվում է արդեն Հայաստանի սա հոսանքի լիմիտներին, տենց արդեն ծերին է, էլի։ Հա, դե ատոմակայանը սարքելը տևում է 10 տարի, իսկ եսի պետք է ասենք մի տարուց էլի ոնց էտա պրոբլեմ է տեխնոլոգիաների հետ։ Նենց որ եթե էդ էլ բան արեցին, ոնց որ compute leak լինելու է, էլի, ասենք Firebird-ի համար դժվար չի լինելու, ասենք մի 5%-ը տալ research-ային բաների եւ այլ, իսկ եթե թիվը շատ մեծանում, այդ 5%-ն էլ հետնա ահավոր մեծան։ Դրա համար ոնց որ compute-ի opportunity leak-ը լինելու է։ Դե համար ես ասում եմ եկեք մի քիչ fundraising անենք, որ boost անենք տարբեր, մենակ մեր լաբը չէ, ինչքան հնարավոր է Հայաստանում, ով ունակ է այսպես բաներ օգտագործել, այսպես բաներ աշխատացնել, բռնենք ֆանդ անենք, որ այդպես քանակների կարողանանք հասնենք։
ԵՊՀ-ի computation power-ը շնորհիվ լանավորում եք ինչպես։
Ինչքան ուրիշ, ԵՊՀ-ի մեջ, հա, ԵՊՀ-ից դուրս բարդ է, որտեվ ինչ որ դոկումենտներ կան այդ էքսպորտ լայսենսի հետ կապված, որտեղ գրած է, որ պետք է ԵՊՀ-ի աշխատողները կամ ուսանողները լինեն յուզերները։ Հիմա թե այդ ոնց հասկանալ, բայց այդտեղ էլ է էլի մի քիչ gray zone, որովհետև այն օրը նայեցինք, թե ԵՊՀ-ի ղեկավարությունը ինչ է ստորագրել, այդ ստորագրածի մեջ չկար, որ restricted է ԵՊՀ-ի աշխատողներին։ Ես ինչ-որ ուրիշ տեղ եմ գտել այդ restriction-ը։ Չեմ հասկանում, եթե հիմա ԵՊՀ-ի ղեկավարությունը դրա տակ չի ստորագրել այդ նախադասության, այդ ինչ նշանակում։ Կարող է, ԵՊՀ-ի ղեկավարության ստորագրածի տակ գրած է, որ ԵՊՀ-ն պետք է ստուգի, որ այդ կոմպին access չունենան մարդիկ, որոնք աշխատում են, օրինակ, ասենք, չգիտեմ, Yandex-ի նման տեղերում, հա, ասենք, աշխատում են մի հատ ընկերությունում, որի headquarters-ը Ռուսաստանում է։ Այդ տենց restriction-ը, բայց ոչ միայն Ռուսաստանում, Չինաստանում, Լիբանանում, բան տենց լիքը երկրների անուններ է, որոնց կամպանիաների, բրանչերի աշխատողները իրավունք չունեն գտնել այս կոմպին։ Սենց բաների տակ է ստորագրած։ Okay. Այսքանը։